I had a really strange experience this morning. I was just staring at the analog clock on my kitchen wall
Hmm.
and watching the second hand sweep around, and I got this sudden weird feeling like vertigo.
Okay.
It just hit me that we spend our entire lives, from kindergarten on up, being taught that numbers exist on this infinite straight line.
The linear progression model, yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fundamental to how we think, not just in math.
Right. Progress is a line, time is a line. But looking at that clock, I realized nature doesn't really do straight lines, does it? Time loops. After 12, you get one again.
Seasons loop, planets orbit, it's all cycles.
Exactly. And that got me thinking about the research you sent over for today. Because the central idea of this deep dive is, well, it's wildly uncomfortable. The premise is, what if the number line is a lie?
Lie is maybe a strong word, but let's say it's an incomplete picture, like thinking the world is flat because the ground right in front of you looks flat.
Okay, a limited perspective.
Today, we're zooming out. We're diving into the Zara Zeta theory, and specifically this concept of the 360-degree modulus.
And I think we should set the stakes here. This isn't just some abstract math puzzle. We're looking at a framework that claims it can fundamentally rewrite encryption and prime numbers.
That's the mission. We're exploring what the source calls the geometry of the core. The argument is that if you stop looking at numbers as just quantities and start seeing them as geometry,
You solve problems that have stumped us for centuries. It feels like we're asking a pretty wild question. Is math actually geometry?
in this framework, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's a very specific shift. We're moving from a probabilistic view of the world.
Where prime numbers just pop up randomly like
Yeah.
weeds.
Exactly. We're moving from that to a strictly deterministic one, a world where everything is balanced, predicted, and ordered by something called Cora Zero.
That word kept jumping out at me in the reading. Core Zero. It sounds like a secret government project or something.
Think of it as the anchor. It's a mathematical null point. In Zara Zeta theory, this is the mechanism that governs how everything behaves. It's the universe's rule book for balancing its own checkbook.
So, okay, let's get into the mechanics. If we're throwing out the number line, what are we using instead?
We're using a circle, a closed 360-degree system. The big shift is treating numbers not as static quantities like, 5 apples, but as vibrational states.
Vibrational states? That sounds more like, I don't know, music than arithmetic.
It's very musical. Instead of running off to infinity, numbers just cycle. And it's not a random spin either. The source material is very specific about a base 24 recursion.
Okay, let's pause on that. Base 24. Most of us work in base 10, right? 10 fingers, why 24?
Think about that clock you're looking at. A standard clock is a 12-step cycle. Zara Zeta says the real clock of the universe, the one that matters for geometry, has 24 steps.
So every number you can think of, a million, a billion, it has to map onto one of those 24 positions.
It has to. It's like a roulette wheel with 24 slots. No matter how many times you spin it, the ball has to land in one of them.
And how do we find out which slot it lands in?
Through digital roots.
I remember this. You take a big number, add up the digits over and over. So like the number 25 would be 2 plus 5, which is 7.
Precisely. So 25 lives in the 7 slot. Now here's why that's a huge deal. On a straight line, prime numbers look like a total mess. They're random.
That's the whole mystery, right? We can't predict the next one.
Standard math says we can't. But Zara Zeta claims that when you wrap that line around this 24-step cylinder, the randomness, it just evaporates.
Yeah.
You see a predictable, deterministic pattern.
And this pattern is held together by those core zero anchors?
Correct. The chaos was an illusion caused by the line. The order is revealed by the circle.
Okay, that's a genuine aha moment. Because if primes aren't random, well, our entire digital security relies on them being random. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the characters here. Numbers 5 and 7.
Cornerstone primes, yes.
Why them? What makes them so special compared to, say, 11 or 13?
It boils down to stability. In this geometric model, most primes have 4 core zero values, 4 points of stability holding them in place. But 5 and 7 are anomalies.
Oh, so?
They each have 8.
Double, so they're twice as anchored.
You can think of it as vector stability because of where they sit in that 360-degree field, they just need double the anchors to stay stable. They're the heavyweights.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating is how they mirror each other.
Right. The source had some math on this that it looked wrong to me at first. I didn't get it.
A mirror effect.
Yeah. It said minus 7 plus 12 equals 5, and minus 5 plus 12 equals 7. Now, on a calculator, sure, that works, but why the negative numbers? Why are we adding 12?
This is pure geometry. -7 doesn't mean you owe someone $7. It means direction. It's moving counterclockwise on the circle.
And the 12,
That's the half cycle, because the full clock is 24. Exactly. So 12 is the halfway point. It's the opposite side of the circle. When the theory says -7 plus 12, it means you start at the opposite side and move backwards 7 steps.
and you land on 5.
You land on the exact vector for 5, and if you move backwards 5 steps, you land on 7. They are perfect reflections.
So you can't really have one without the other. They're like counterweights.
That's the perfect term. They're not isolated. And the text even talks about them having signatures, constantly interacting with other numbers.
Right, like 5 interacts with 11 and 35. It's not static. It feels like a heartbeat.
It is. The text describes these interactions as phase transitions. It says 5 has a positive Phasenübergang, a positive phase transition that connects it to 35. It shows that 5 naturally wants to evolve into a larger structure. It wants to become 35.
Which brings us to 35. In school, 5 times 7 is 35, end of story. But here, it's treated like a massive architectural structure.
It is. In this theory, 35 isn't just a number. It represents a 16 core 0 structure.
16
Except
factorial. Wait, you mean 16 times 15 times 14 and so on? That's a huge number.
It's describing exponential complexity. You're combining the 8 states of the 5 with the 8 states of the 7. You get this incredibly dense web of relationships.
Wow. It's less like a number and more like a constellation.
That's a great way to put it. And to find out where this constellation sits, we look at the recursion math again. The source gives a specific calculation. 35 equals 11 plus 24.
Okay, so 35 is just 11 plus 1 full cycle of 24. That means they sit in the same slot on the clock face.
They share the same geometric vector, exactly. But then the theory does something really interesting. It subtracts the cycle to find the tension. It calculates 11 minus 24.
Which gives you minus 13.
And that, negative 13, is the residuum.
The residuum.
Yes,
Right.
it's the number's fingerprint, it's tension. It's what you get when the number is, quote, thrown behind the origin by the cycle.
Thrown behind the origin. That's so dramatic for simple arithmetic.
But it's crucial. It tells you that 35 has this backward pull, a tension of minus 13. Traditional math sees the 35. Zara Zeta sees the minus 13 tension hiding behind it.
So 35 is the object, and minus 13 is its shadow.
Perfect. And if you can measure the shadow, you know everything about the object.
I want to circle back, no pun intended, to the number 12. It keeps showing up. Why is 12 so important?
Because in this theory, 12 isn't just a number, it's an operator.
An operator.
It represents 180 degrees, half of the 360-degree cycle. The text calls it the absolute center of
That's
gravity.
important.
It's the fulcrum on a seesaw. It's the point of inversion. It's where a positive impulse flips over into a negative residuum. Without that division by 12,
You wouldn't have polarity. Plus and minus.
you'd have nothing. The system would be flat. The number 12 is the engine that allows the system to have symmetry and balance. It's what makes the whole thing work.
Okay, so we have this beautiful, elegant geometric system, but let's get down to it. Why should the average person care about the vectors of 35?
Because of encryption. Because of RSA.
The lock on the internet.
Exactly. Our banking, our private messages, all of it relies on the fact that it's easy to multiply two huge prime numbers together, but incredibly hard to take the result and work backwards to find the original primes.
Right. Factoring is hard. That's the assumption that keeps my credit card numbers safe.
It's supposed to take a supercomputer millions of years. But Zara Zeta claims factoring is only hard if you're doing it on a line. If you look at the core 0 structure, the geometry,
You don't have to brute force it.
you just use the map. The source calls this the hybrid RSA knapsack multicode.
The knapsack multicode. Why knapsack?
It's an analogy. The knapsack problem is about fitting items perfectly into a container. This theory says those residues, like the minus 13 we found, are the items. They contain all the information about the factors packed away.
So the information isn't lost when you multiply, it's just hidden in the geometry.
Precisely. And the theory provides a doubling sequence 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 that acts as a motor to navigate this system. It's a key.
And the implication is someone with this key could just...
Look at a massive, supposedly secure number, measure its geometry, spot the residuum, and derive the factors instantly. It bypasses factoring completely.
It turns code breaking into geometry class. That's terrifying.
It is, and it connects directly to maybe the biggest unsolved problem in all of math, the Riemann hypothesis.
The Holy Grail. Okay, now we're really swinging for the fences.
It's a huge swing. The Riemann hypothesis is about where the zeros of the zeta function lie. For over a century, the guess has been that they all fall in a critical line, where the real part is 1/2.
And Zara Zeta has an explanation for that.
It does. It says the critical line of 1/2 corresponds exactly to the 12-step inversion point in this 24-step system.
Whoa, because 12 is half of 24, 1/2.
Precisely. It interprets the zeros not as random data points, but as core zero symmetry points, or the balance points, the energy knots.
So the theory is that the Riemann hypothesis isn't a mystery at all. It's a geometric necessity. The zeros have to be there for the circle to balance itself.
That's the argument. The distribution of the zeros matches the harmonic distribution of the core zero values. It's all the same geometry, just at different scales.
Wow. We have covered some serious ground. We went from a clock on the wall to re-architecting the universe.
It's a lot to take in. It challenges some very basic assumptions.
So let's try to synthesize this. We went from a number line, a 24-step rotational model. We found that primes like 5 and 7 are stable, mirrored heavyweights.
And their product, 35, isn't a number so much as a complex 16-state web with a hidden tension, that residuum of -13.
Then we learned that 12 is the operator, the pivot that makes the whole system balance. And finally, that this geometry might be the key to breaking encryption and solving the Riemann hypothesis.
And the common thread is determinism. That's the real takeaway. The universe isn't rolling dice. It's a clockwork mechanism, and we've just been looking at the surface.
Right. We see 5 times 7 is 35 and think that's the whole story. But underneath, there are 16 factorial core zero dimensions churning away.
It suggests what we call randomness. It's just a pattern we haven't been able to see yet.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. The text mentions this King-Keedy approach. It's about looking past the surface to see the hidden dimension.
Seeing the ghost in the machine.
Exactly. If numbers like 35 aren't simple quantities, but these complex geometric webs, what does that mean for your digital life? Your passwords, your bank accounts, your identity, they all rely on 35 just being 35.
We're living in a glass house, assuming the walls are made of stone.
So if there is a geometric key out there, a map that lets someone see the hidden dimensions we can't, well, the world might be a much more transparent place than we think.
And maybe much more fragile.
Something to think about next time you type in your passcode. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next dimension.